How about it? Isn't it time to go ahead and have an ordinance that works for the people? We look at it, we need an environmental review system. We need health impact studies and part of the ordinance. We want water quality to be part of the ordinance and review. And ahead of time, we need you to be looking at it ahead of time. Where are the monitoring wells? We do the air quality analysis, and who's going to be putting up the air quality monitoring stations? Are you going to charge the public for it, or are you going to charge the industry for it? How about noise pollution? Would you like to have a boom, 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 right next door to your house with 82 decibels on your front porch like they have up in San Juan County? How about light pollution? We're supposed to be a dark sky state. And everything I've seen with those 30-foot plumes of light that they allow for fracking for up to 60 days, I could just see us burning candles. Not meant for celebration, but burning the Earth days. We're losing the maize. It's getting so hot these days. We got popcorn on the cob. And how about seismicity? If you look, Doug Sinence, he does reviews on the web of all of the fracking, earthquakes that have been occurring all across the country, from the Bakken all the way on down to Texas and the Permian Basin. We have homes out here. We're not in the middle of nowheresville. On water quality, are you ready to spend county money to go ahead and have people's wells be taken care of? Or how about the fact that if they don't have water that's pure anymore because the fracking companies have contaminated it, do you know how much it cost for 18 homes in Pennsylvania? It was $12 million to hook them up to the water system. How about emergencies and road traffic? What are you going to do with an explosion like up in Nageezi? And councilors, the pipelines that have exploded in this state before, fricasseeing an entire family on down the southern portion of the state by Carlsbad. Are we ready to go ahead and put on some real strictures on them, that the pipeline pigs actually go ahead and do software that works for the people instead of software that doesn't work for the people? Look up Greg Palast and the pipeline pigs for further information. How about the economics of this whole endeavor? Are you ready to go ahead and put on more police for the sex trade that comes with the fracking business? Are you ready for that? Oh yes, and cost-benefit analysis. Well, you know that they're going to manipulate that one no matter what. But we still need it. And the leasing agents, what sort of governing piece of material are you going to have for leases out here? Or are people going to be hoodwinked by these folks? And then who's going to monitor them for compliance and enforcement? How many personnel do you have in your health department? So that's at least a few of them that you can do. Let's get it on here. Let's get a good ordinance that's at least as thick as the cannabis ordinance I just saw in Humboldt County, California, which is about 1.5 inches thick just to regulate medical marijuana. So if it's taking that much for medical marijuana, how about at least that much for the oil and gas industry? Thanks. Dundee.
Thanks for coming out today, and we're here to rally for a comprehensive oil and gas ordinance, and we hope that
drum circle. If anyone wants to be a part of our drum circle, we drum for the earth. We drum for our future generations. Every time we drum, it's a prayer. And so I guess I didn't expect this, but I guess I'm going to open this up with the prayer today. And I'm going to do it. I'm just going to tell you, I am a Sandoval County resident. I live in Corrales for the past 25 years. I'm also mestiza, and my people have always been here. I'm indigenous to this land, and they also came in with Coronado to Bernalillo. So I'm from here, and for generations and generations. And I could tell you there's no future in fracking and oil and gas. There's no future. We have to always think of our future generations. Pray for our planet. And so I'm going to start this off. I'm going to do this because, also do this prayer because I'm a sun dancer. And I've been a sun dancer for over 20 years. And so I'm going to sing a Sundance song to open this up, and then I'll do a prayer. And if there's any dancers or any sun dancers, come forward and we'll sing together. I had my native drum taken from me recently, so I'm using this African drum, but the drum is indigenous to all cultures. All my relations. Creator, we give thanks for our lives today. We give thanks for that mountain over there and that river, and all of us coming together with our hearts in a good place, in a peaceful place. And we pray that we ask that our prayers be heard, and in whatever way that we come to in our prayer, Creator, lift us up. Hear our prayers. Hear our prayers for Mother Earth, for our children, for all living things. We ask that the hearts of these political leaders be open to hearing that this is not for our Co. All my relations. Next
we'll have Peaches Blackbird say a few words.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I'm a loudspeaker, so you guys can hear me pretty loud. Hi, my name is Peaches Blackbird, and I'm the president of Power Through Peace. We're a direct action network. We work in mostly solidarity and getting people out to organizations and events. It is really crucial that we are here today, and I just want to say thank you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause for coming out today. It is very crucial for us to be here today, not only for our future generations, but for ourselves. One big thing that I've noticed is that this isn't just only Native American land, this is our land. Over the past generations, a lot of people have been saying, you know, this is Native American land, this is our land. Well, it's not only just ours, it's yours as well. And so for you guys to be out here and to stand by us, and to stand by not only myself, but our people, is a very important point. One big thing is that I actually brought this up to my own governor. I'm from the Pueblo Zia, and he didn't even know that this was going on. So that says it in its whole self. And one thing about you guys being out here just shows not only Native Americans, but our young children and our older people that they can come out here and they can be with us on this Tuesday in no wind. But one thing I did want to make clear is that thank you guys for coming out, and thank you for showing us Native Americans that you guys are standing by us, that you guys are standing right next to each other, and that you guys are here for us. Also, you know, not just being Native American, but being a person. It's the idea that our resources are at stake right now. It's the fact that over 100 years later, we are still fighting for our resources, and that is ridiculous in itself, right?
Yes.
I mean, I would rather be doing things. I would rather be at home right now. I could be doing so much, but what's important is that you guys came out here, and our voices will be heard. It will be heard tonight, whether it's us standing in front of them, whether it's us shouting from the top of our lungs. But what matters is that this is not only our resources, it's our culture, it's our tradition, and every one of you guys has a culture, and every one of you guys does have a tradition, whether it's us preserving our future, and whether it's us looking for our past for guidance. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you. Next we have Lynette, who is going to give us her voice on this matter here. Thank you, Lynette.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Sister Peaches. Yat e she Lynette houses Yinshe. Ashi hiye nishla. Chishu bashos chin. Towa ni dashiche. Chishu dashinole. Kot ego azani nishla. I introduce myself in my Diné language because that's the way I was taught. A lot of our Navajo people have been affected by fracking in the greater Chaco area, which is the northern region of Sandoval County. And this not only affects my native people, my Navajo people, but also my Pueblo people as well. And not only Navajo, I'm also Taos Pueblo, and I'm also Chiricahua Apache. And I see these things happening not only on native lands, not only in all three of my native tribes, but I see it happening across the states. And now there's a big fracking boom. And I see that it's always come to be profit over people,
Right.
profit over culture. Right. And it's an insane way of thinking.
Yes, it is.
It's cultural genocide. It's environmental racism.
Yes.
And it needs to be held accountable. And these people that are making these decisions, these county commissioners, are supposed to be on our side, and they're supposed to hear our voice and work for the people. So that's why we're here, because we want ordinances. We don't want fracking, but if there's going to be fracking, we want it to be held accountable. We want ordinances in place that are going to make sure that these environmental assessments are done correctly, and that there's
No fracking!
yes,
No
no
fracking!
fracking.
No
Fracking is cultural genocide on our people, and we're here to say no fracking because it directly threatens our lives. And we're here in the desert, and we need water to live. And fracking does poison water.
Yes, it does.
And it does emit poisonous gas up
Yes,
into
it
the
does.
air. So not only does fracking, and these are facts, these aren't just opinions, these are proven facts.
Yes, it
and
is.
you'll see by other communities that have been affected that these social impacts and environmental impacts go up and down.
Yes,
And they go not only happening in the present, but they'll also happen in the future to our children. What are we going to say if there's no water left? If we can't even practice our traditions because there's no more soil, there's no more herbs, no more medicines growing, there's no more sacred sites to go to. We're not only here as Indigenous people to say stop, we don't want fracking, but we're here to ask you as non-Indigenous allies to stand with us because like I said, it's not just about us. I'm not thinking about us. I'm not thinking about myself. I'm not thinking about, anyone else. What I'm here and I'm thinking about is the children. Is the children, your grandchildren. If I ever have any children, that's what I want to make sure is that they have some clean water and that they have air to breathe. Because as we see in the greater fracking, the greater Chaco that's being fracked, not only are there environmental impacts that are happening, but the social impacts. It breaks up families, and they want to divide and conquer us more. They want to divide and separate us into oil and gas regions.
Yes.
And already in the Fracco, in the greater Chaco area, it's pretty much what it's going to be.
Yes.
They divide and conquer tactics are so complex. There's BLM land on top of checkerboard areas of Navajo Nation land, of private land, of Aladi land, and they make it like that. They divide it up. These surface land and mineral rights are totally different. So people may own the surface rights, but they don't own the mineral rights. And that's what we need to take into account, is what's going on top of the surface needs to, also what's going on the bottom of the surface needs to be held, and we need to know what's going on in these impacts. And even all of these environmental impacts, we don't see a lot of it now because it's accumulating impact.
Yes.
Which means we don't see the effects now, but guess what? In 10 years down the road, it's going to be too late. It's going to be too late because we're going to be living it. Our children are going to be living these effects. I see on the Navajo Nation I went with my fellow advocate, Daniel So of the Frack Off the Greater Chaco Canyon. I went on his Fracking is a Reality tour in Counselor, New Mexico, in Liebrook, New Mexico, where they had that explosion last July. I went to the fracking sites, and within 5 minutes of being around that area, I got a headache. People on the tour got nosebleeds. So that's within 5 minutes, and think about all the communities that live just 25 yards from these plants, these oil rigs, these fracking sites. The schools are right there. When that explosion happened, they had to evacuate the kids from the school. And they built another school, and they're fracking right around it again. And I see all the waste deposits around, and there's no fencing. We took a tour of the area. There's no fencing around it. The open wastewater is there, and there's cattle and horses around. So there is the haves and the have-nots. It's dividing our people. It's dividing us spiritually, culturally. So I'm here to stand not only and be a voice for my Indigenous peoples, but also for all of you and the children. And I thank you all for being so passionate advocates. I look at all these signs here, and I know that there's many groups here that feel the same way. So, I don't want to preach to the choir because I know all of you are already against fracking. So we need to keep voicing our hearts and what's right, and get all of these companies and our representatives to hear us, because we have the power. We have the power to say, no, we don't want our children growing up with asthma. We don't want our children to breathe in these carcinogens and methane that is released into the air and have all these cancers developing and unknown diseases that are happening, and they keep dying off. Our elders are not not even hitting more than 65 anymore because they're dying and they don't even know why. But we know why. We know the truth. So that's why I'm here to voice these peoples that are affected in these indigenous communities. And that's what they do. They come to minority communities. They come to where people of color don't have this support, like in the urban areas. They come and they try to exploit us in our culture and our ways of life. And New Mexico is such a beautiful state. We're so blessed to live in such a beautifully rich cultural state. You can see the mountains. There's parts of the country where you can't even see the air. You can't even see the stars at night. You can't even drink the water. It's only sold in bottles of water. They sell tap water to you, your own tap water, after they poisoned it. So it's time to hold these companies accountable. We want to make sure that there's air quality, water quality, and cultural survival. We want to make sure that our people are taken care of. And that's why I'm here. And I appreciate all of you all for coming and expressing your opinions, and all of the organizers and the speakers. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And thank you all. Thank you.
Some good words here today. Victoria, is there another of our Pueblo or Dene brothers and sisters that would like to have
Speak up, Elaine.
Is there any Dene or Pueblo brothers and sisters who would like to have a word? Speak? Okay, we'll move on. I'd like to introduce Marielle Nanansi. Where are you, Marielle? There we go. Here we go.
Hi everybody, I'm Marielle Nanassi. I'm with New Energy Economy. We're based in Santa Fe. I want to thank Elaine and all the other organizers for organizing this. This is a travesty. I mean, we were here, what was it, 2 years ago, right?
Sure.
And we got them to deny Sandridge's application for fracking. And I'll just tell you a little story. When I was walking out, of the building, the Sand Ridge guy goes up to me. He goes, "You know, that was a really good. What you said was really good." And I said, "What did you like?" And he says, "Well, they're saying it's economic development, but we are facing bankruptcy." And that was from the Sand Ridge guy. And I was like, "Right on, yeah," because you know what, it really happened. That's it. And they did go into bankruptcy. And here they were touting economic development was the answer. Well, at some point we need a revolution of values. Not everything is for sale. Not everything is for profit. We need to, as the other people before me said, we need to protect our water. Without water, we die. Without air, we die. And we are so lucky to be here where there's, we don't want to litter everywhere. Where there's clean air. But in Farmington, there's not clean air. The American Lung Association gave the San Juan County an F in for its ozone. And I just want you to know something else. There were 3,600 oil and gas spills last year. 3,600. How many of them do you think there was fines or the permit was pulled from the gas company? How many? Or any cleanup? None. Zero. 99.5% of all gas and oil spills, there was not one fine, or there was one fine, and that's basically it. So I listened to some of these presentations. You know that Governor Martinez sent down the new cabinet secretary for the environment. Well, who is that cabinet secretary? That cabinet secretary was the vice president of WPX. WPX has the main fracking sites out on Navajo Nation. That fire that happened last year that burned for 5 days, they couldn't control that fire for 5 days. Who did that? That was a WPX explosion of six oil containers that blew up. This is what our friends who live on Navajo Nation are facing. They are facing fracked air, fracked water, explosions, non-stop noise. That it sounds like they're. Excuse me. Hi. So the non-stop noise that's like a jet engine from the drilling going into their house. This is not peace and quiet. This is not in the public interest. And the thing is that right now they're saying, oh, that only happens where there's nobody living. Well, the Navajo live there, and so we have an absolute responsibility if we care about environmental justice, if we care about being anti-racist, if we care about our brethren, then we care that they're spoiling that land. It's already happening. The urgency is already now. So it's not just about we don't want it right here in Placitas. We don't want it here in Placitas, but we don't want it in Navajo Nation either. And so it is imperative that we hold these people accountable. You know, this sign we made for another situation, but it applies here. We want these representatives, right, quote unquote representatives, these county commissioners, to work for the people, not for gas companies. That's not their MO. They have a responsibility. So when Governor Martinez sends her lackey, who's WPX president down here, and says, or vice president, and says, hey, oh, forget that ordinance stuff. We don't need any rules. And you know what he said? I heard him today. They said, oh, well, we don't need any rules because we already have so many rules. But they just circumvent those rules. They don't pay those fines. They don't take care of the water. And you know, there is all this. If you talk to the people on Navajo Nation, they say that there's all these spills all over the place. And as a matter of fact, when they have that produced water, that's what they call it, Orwellian, for toxic water, when they take that toxic water, you know what they do? They just dump it out into the area, into people's homes. So this is a matter of environmental injustice. And we have to stand up, and we have to stay here as long as they want. They want to, instead of do an ordinance, they want to do a 10-day turnaround permit. No, that's not acceptable. We're not going to have that. Yeah, we want a moratorium until there's an ordinance, and we want the ordinance to be absolutely foolproof. Unless they can show that they can do this without any damage to the people, to the earth, then they can't frack. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thanks all for coming. My name is Jim McKenzie. I'm the co-coordinator of 350 New Mexico, and we're here to stand with the people of Sandoval County in opposing this ridiculously weak ordinance that they want to pass for public protection. That's a joke. We know that, and that's why you're all here. I also want to talk about another myth. We have a myth of public protection with this ordinance. Another myth is that if we close down the big coal-fired plants in the Four Corner area, that's progress. Okay? That's a myth. The reality is PNM wants to change to natural gas, which is methane, which is worse than coal. It's beautiful when it burns a little blue flame. But for everyone here who lives around a fracking development, they know the reality. There's nothing clean about it. A fracking well leaks methane, not by accident, but on purpose. Every single fracking well releases methane into the air as part of their drilling process. Okay, this is not, they don't even consider it a leak. Right? They purge the pipe in the ground, they turn on the valve, and it shoots into the air. This is part of the process. So this is so important because methane, as we know, is an intense greenhouse gas, and we don't have forever here, right, with climate change. This is not for any time you get ready to fix the problem kind of deal. So we know that, and that's why we're here to stand with you. Thank you very much.
Hi, Benton. You want to come up here and speak here? Benton is the co-director for Common Ground Rising, and he's very active in 350.org and here as well. Louder.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody.
Really close, Benton.
I would like to tell you about some of the challenges that we face if we actually allow this oil and gas ordinance to be written in such a way that it actually protects the industry rather than the people and the citizens here in Sandoval County. Let's use our imagination for a moment about this. Let's say that we get this oil and gas ordinance passed, which is very meager in what it actually demands. And let's say that the company comes in and requests to do some drilling, exploratory drilling, like Sandridge did last time. And let's say they find hydrocarbons there. What's going to happen next? Well, it pretty much stands to reason that there will be more companies coming in to continue drilling and actually do fracking, probably out in the region, the northwestern region of Rio Rancho to begin with, but who knows? It could spread widely in the east-west direction. And so if you start out with 2 wells, 3 wells, 20 wells, 100 wells, and basically we think that we could have many thousands of wells over the years in this area. And this would be absolutely a disaster for Sandoval County. We could easily wind up having one of our aquifers contaminated with stuff like benzene. And certainly there's ample evidence that when you have this kind of fracking going on, that you will see actually methane bubbling up in effervescence in people's water wells. This was seen very much in Texas, and there is actually one of the science publications about this very phenomenon. And what they did, actually, they were actually able to do a very nice study to show where the methane was coming from. And they did an isotopic study to find out how deep this methane was coming from down in the earth. And so they have a nice publication on this, and it does very much verify that there was contamination of the water due to the methane that came up. So when people say that they can't, that we don't have data showing aquifers being contaminated, they're just wrong. And so that's what we're worrying about. But there's a lot of other things. Basically, you have the hydrogen sulfide coming in the air from these wells. And you have children, and this is already happening, that children that are living too close to these wells are getting asthma, their mothers are having premature births. There's a lot of health effects that are associated with fracking. We have to learn to recognize these problems and not let the leaders of our county run over us, because this is the only way. We're the people that have to stop this, or believe me, it'll go way out of control. And if we wind up damaging the aquifers, this will have really bad effects on home values and all sorts of things. So anyway, that's my happy words of what we may expect. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Tomorrow evening at Loma Colorado Library at 6 o'clock, we're having a small meeting after today's meeting to try to go figure out how we're going to go forward on dealing with this issue. We'll find out some things tonight in this meeting. I just want to go over a couple things. Back in September of 2016, we did a IPRA request, which is a request for public documents on the emergency safety plan for the county. And they refused to give it to us on the grounds of national security, saying it was about terrorism. And the Office of the Attorney General had determined that the county was in violation of IPRA, and we are moving forward now on a lawsuit against the county to get them to release that document. And the meeting on May 12th, Mike Springfield, who is the planning director here, mentioned that they didn't have an emergency response plan, to our surprise. And then they're now wanting the gas companies to provide the county the emergency response plan. Well, this is the only county that I know of. Bernalillo posts their emergency response plan on their website. It's not a secret. We know what's going to happen if there's an emergency in Bernalillo. Bernalillo's going to have to come over here and spend all their money trying to stop an explosion or a fire in Sandoval County. The state's going to have to respond because the county is not doing their job in protecting the citizens of the county of Sandoval. So it's a very important issue because what happened in Nageezi could very well happen anywhere. We also have pipelines that have been exposed in Placitas last year in a storm event, and that's a hazardous pipeline. It goes right into Rutas Creek. What is it? Las Huertas Creek, and it flows right into the Rio Grande. And this is what we're afraid of. We're afraid of poisoning the Albuquerque Basin. Once one is unleashed, that's it. You don't get a second chance at this stuff. And we really need to hold the people accountable in this building for making a comprehensive ordinance, an oil and gas ordinance that is going to add the protections we need for our water and our air and the health and safety of all the citizens in the county of Sandoval. We have a serious issue with the corruption in this state. We have campaign contributions that have allowed $1 million to the governor. The governor is now pushing this. The state comes and demands to the county that, why, we don't need an ordinance. Everything's just working fine here in Sandoval County. We will have a 10-day turnaround permit, and we'll streamline these permits together, the county and the state. Well, this opens up for hundreds of wells, all being able to do this online. And then what happens is they have their rules, like 600 feet setback from a home or a school, and then what OCD does is give the oil companies, the gas companies, a waiver. And they get to put their drills 300 feet from a home or school. And that's exactly what's happened in the Tri-Chapter Alliance area in northern Sandoval County. There's been waiver after waiver, and people are not able to have any way of going about any recourse or appeal on any decision going forward. And that is why it is so important that we push for these county ordinances. Now, there's people in Butterkers and Algodones and La Madera and Pina Blanca who have no idea that this is going on right now, that they are being targeted. And if you know people in those towns, in those areas, please tell them about this. Reach out to your neighbors and to other people who can talk to people in those areas to start coming to these meetings. We have to do the outreach. We have to sit down and talk with people about what their alternatives are and what we can do together, working together. The more united we are, the stronger our voice and the stronger appeal we have to the decision makers. So please, please, let people know about what's going on in our backyard here. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak today? Here. Lars.
Hello, my name is Lars Panaro. I'm an associate organizer with Food and Water Watch here in New Mexico. And I'll just try to be brief here. This is our home. This is our county. Yeah.
Yes, it
okay? It's not the home of these oil and gas companies. And so, as a result, I think we all know they don't really care about it, and they don't really care about us. They're just looking to make a quick buck. New Mexico gets 85% of its drinking water from groundwater. 85%. Oil and gas development poses an extreme threat to that groundwater. Okay, you know, this is not a laughing matter, and I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but you know, sometimes I feel like our representatives here they just don't get these things, you know. And so these are good things to keep in mind. Another statistic: Germany is getting 85% of its energy from renewable sources. There's absolutely no reason that we can't do the same thing here in this country, and I do believe that it starts with the local level, whether it's the county or the state, and so on and so forth. So these are things that we really need to drive home. And it's important to remember that what we do here will impact the surrounding counties, and it'll set an example for the rest of the state, and possibly even the rest of the country. Fracking has already been banned in at least two states. I believe it's New York and Maryland. Okay, and so, you know, I'm glad that we all made it out here today, and we have to remain vigilant, and we have to hold our elected officials accountable, because at the end of the day, the needs, not the desires, the needs of the people and the many always outweigh the needs, or I should say in this case, the desires of the few. And even though corporations are still erroneously considered individuals, there's still one or two or three individuals versus all the rest of us, thousands and thousands of people. So this whole thing is just ridiculous. The last thing I'll say is if you want to get more involved and get the momentum moving, be a part of Food and Water Watch, please text, get out your phones and text to 69866 and text the word resist. Again, that's 69866. Thanks.
Daniel?
And actually, one more thing I wanted to say. We're out here today, we're doing this because we have to. We don't have a choice. And so, we cannot hate the people that we're up against. We can't hate, because hate is poison. We need to rise above all of that and create a better world for ourselves and for everybody else, including the people that we're up against. So we do this out of necessity, not out of vindictiveness or hate. Thank you.
Daniel!
Have a question for Daniel.
Excuse me?
Lawrence, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have
Sure, I know a little bit about it. It seems like from the existing studies that we have, there is a direct correlation between fracking and those earthquakes. And it's not actually the fracking itself that's contributing to the cause of the earthquakes. It's the re-injection of the fracking fluid, which is a lot of people don't know about this, but what they do is they take the the hundreds of thousands of gallons, sometimes millions of gallons of water that could be used for drinking, by the way, and that water is then laced with hundreds of carcinogenic chemicals, many of which are not released, nor are they required to be released to the public. They take that stuff, they use it to frack, they use it to fracture the shale and the rock below the earth, and then when they're done with it, they can't really, oftentimes they can't do much else with it. Well, sometimes they can, but it's cheaper not to. So they just re-inject it into another place of the earth, and it never returns to the water table, and the re-injection causes basically an imbalance in the shale and the plates and all that stuff, and it creates additional fractures in the earth, and it leads to more earthquakes. So yeah, it's very real.
Also, this ordinance that they released on May 12th allows them to re-inject on the frac side. Right. So it's really important that when they start re-injecting onto the frac side, they're going to be contaminating because even though they can do all these top-notch things as far as the well casings, between the well casing and the earth, there's always room for leakage into the aquifer, and the gas comes up out of that on the side of that casing, and so it's really important that you understand that it's not something that we want to have happen here in Sandoval County. And so, Mark, would you like to say a couple words here? Mark LeClaire from We Are One River.
Yeah, I'll just share a few things real quick that have been on my mind in terms of what we're up against. One thing that we're going to hear in there is how we need this money for our education. Right. That's one of their main ways that they're trying to convince everybody that we should just blindly rush forward with this. I want to ask everybody here, and I want to ask them in there. We've been in extraction state for over 50 years, right? Right. That's been driving our economy for 50 years now. Right. And where's our education right now? Right. Where's our economy right now? Right. We know what this does to us. We don't need to listen to their promises because we already know what's going to happen. They extract, they take, and they pollute, they destroy, and then they leave. That's their pattern. So the other thing I wanted to just speak to real quickly is that our water is sacred, our air is sacred, our land is sacred. And this is something that just kind of exploded into our consciousness up at Standing Rock, and we could carry that on today, that knowledge, that idea. And when something's sacred, you protect it, you know? That's what we're doing here today. So I'm really appreciative of everybody that came out, and this is just the beginning. It seems like the corruption is so deep up in here in Sandoval County that this might just pass through no matter what we say. We're moving forward to ask Bernalillo County now for a moratorium on fracking. We're going to be, we have a petition drive going. We're going to be getting a county commissioner to sponsor us, and we need to start packing the county commission meetings over there in Bernalillo so we can get a moratorium on fracking and stall this out for a minute until we build the momentum and support to ban this at the state level. We know we can do this. So thank you again. We have a Facebook page. It's called We Are One River, and we're just trying to make that a spot where you can go to get more information about all this. It's easy to remember, so We Are One River on Facebook. You can look that up. And thank you to Elaine and everybody else who's been putting a lot of work into this issue.
We're going to have Mike Neese speak for a moment.
think everybody needs to know the reason why we are here right now. Of course, we all are water protectors.
Yes, we
And
are.
we are here for quality oil and gas ordinances for Sandoval County and beyond. Once we get them in Sandoval County, we'll get them in Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque and beyond that. We need to protect our water, our air, the health and safety of the people and the land. So we know that EPA is trying to roll back regulations. We know that when they don't roll back regulations, they will defund or underfund. When they can't underfund enough, they will trade out the people in place that will drag their heels. And when they can't do that, they'll tell us to sue them. And of course, they're already controlling the court. So we can't rely on the federal government. And then on the state level, we have the Oil Conservation Division. That's an oxymoron, isn't it? Yes. Oil Conservation Division, especially when their job is to protect all things oil, and yet they don't. The methane rule, the ponds, so we can't get protections from the Oil Conservation Division. Another reason why is because in 2009, the state Supreme Court ruled that the OCD can give fines, but they can't collect on those fines. And so they don't collect on those fines because they're supposed to go through, right now until we get the statutes changed, they have to go through the Attorney General's office, where the Attorney General says that they haven't asked him to do so. Of course they haven't.
And they're not going to.
And they're not going to until we get a new governor and we get a new state land commissioner. So we can't depend on the federal government. We can't depend on the state government, no matter how much they tell us we can. We have to have local government regulations in place, and this is why we're here right now. Thank you.
I'm Steve Berchinsky. I'm with the Green Party here of the Albuquerque metro area. And I'm here basically because we're going to be looking at all three counties, Sandoval, Bernalillo, and Valencia County, and running an ordinance in each one of them. So that's why we're here, is because we figured that we got to protect it all. This is our valley, and anything that happens here, including, for example, ground level ozone that builds up, if it puts us into violation, for example, we will be looking at annual auto emissions testing in this valley. I don't know if many of you know that, but we don't manufacture any of that equipment here, which means that all the money flies out of the state with no multiplier. So that's not really good for us if we can't go ahead and control the air quality that's coming off of this industry. That said, how many of you know Jeff Sturba or ever heard of him? Yeah, I got at least one hand up there. He used to be the former CEO of PNM. Okay, what is he into these days? He went into the water industry. What type of water industry? Water for fracking industry. And I had an occasion to go ahead and work with them on a few items. The passive solar up at El Dorado, that they showed that solar can't work in New Mexico because they made a passive solar building that was meant to waste energy, if you can believe that or not. They had to put up a 7 kW system just to go ahead and operate one house. Okay, most of us, like in my house, I have a 1.2 kW system for the entire household. So that's pretty good. Anyway, what else is happening? Well, we talked about the water quality. I spoke with the Department of Agriculture today because they were looking at what has to be done for water protection. Well, do you know how many test wells that we have in this state for water protection? Yes, statewide. Statewide. 10. We have 10 wells for the state for looking at groundwater contamination. And that's a problem. So if the industry's not bellying up to the bar, so to speak, and paying the bills right up front, we're not going to be able to go and take care of this either. Let's see, anything else I need to say? Take it back. I mean, if Trump is going to go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to go and cut this, cut that, cut this and everything, then where are our legislators in saying that, wait a minute, I want to protect my people? And that's what we should be looking at. What are our people need to be protected from? And if Trump cuts the EPA, any regulations that he cuts should be here.
We put in there.
Yeah, well, of course. So anyway, this evening actually, we do have 10 major items that were given to us for getting this into the public process. How many of you feel that you could speak for 2 minutes passionately about something that's here? All right, I'd like to see you all, because we have a CD, and here's what we're going to need to do. You're going to need to speak passionately about the issue, like my water, my air, my economics, and as you finish with that, what you will do is that, for reference, I give you all of this reference material, which was graciously provided to me by Bob Wesley with regards to what he did for the San Miguel ordinance. And so that's how we enter these things into the record. That way they don't have any opportunity to say, hey, we can't do this here because the public hasn't spoken out about these issues. So we definitely need you today to spend that extra 2 minutes. Generally speaking, will it be at the beginning of the meeting, public comment? So we'll need for you to come and see us and inside where it's a little bit less breezy, and we'll get it done. Okay? Thanks.